Who remembers, raise your hands, who remembers Scott saying, you got to make that DNA go away?
Actually, Don Daniels beat you to it. Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer, everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only, and just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Okay, I shared this in my community tab, and quite a few of you commented and said that you had tried to listen to this and were basically just like super disappointed at the clickbait that this freaking video was. Now this guy on this channel is apparently a real defense attorney, and I don't honestly see how he could be very successful whenever context clues seem to go right over his head. We talked about this whenever we went over the motions to suppress and the information that was posted by the defense and then the state's rebuttal. There is a portion of the arrest statements that is redacted when it comes to the information that was given to the public, but that for some reason that one sentence is redacted, or that portion, that fragment of a sentence is redacted in black so that we can't see what it is. But the context clues surrounding the redaction are what tells us exactly what this statement is and how this defense attorney is coming out here and claiming that this could mean that Bryan Kohberger confessed before he was Mirandized is absolutely ludicrous. And the crazy thing is that he's got so many people in the comments telling him, no, that is not what that means. We know exactly what that means because this is what it was. And they're giving him all of the details. And he should know this because it was one of the biggest things that people had been talking about right after his arrest, especially after a couple other things came to light, like the fact that the ICR rules are written like there could be a co-defendant, like the fact that Steve Goncalves claimed that he was basically punished by the FBI or threatened to be punished by the feds and local law enforcement and anybody else involved because there was somebody that he was going to be trying to talk to, that he was going to be meeting up with, but the laws put a quick ixnay on that. Now, before we get to this, I'm going to show you guys this clip because listening to him act like this about this was honestly pretty funny.
We said, you got to make that DNA go away. Who remembers, raise your hands, who remembers Scott saying, you got to make that DNA go away, which goes back to what I said all along, right? You got to make that DNA go away. It's a problem. And the defense is trying to do that.
Actually, Don Daniels beat you to that. Don Daniels beat you to that before any of us even knew who Bryan Kohberger was. And not only that, but you can't sit there and state that the defense is the one trying to get rid of it whenever, like we just mentioned, Don Daniels was trying to tell their magistrate court over there in Pullman to just disregard it even though they knew all about it. Just forget I said anything. I know that you can't erase it from your brain because that's not how humans work, but just for the sake of you actually signing this search warrant for this guy's apartment and office, let's just forget about it, okay? But the state has been telling us that they were going to be filing motions to suppress the IGG from the beginning. So no, the defense isn't trying to do anything insane. The state and the investigators and people involved in said investigation have been trying to get rid of this from day one. Why do you think it's so freaking sketchy? I'm going to go ahead and play this little clip so you can see how giddy he looks whenever he says this. But honestly, dude, come on, context clues. They're all around it.
But this is the one that I found interesting, ladies and gentlemen. It makes you wonder, did Bryan Kohberger confess? So this is the motion to suppress the Pennsylvania search. Here comes the good part. All statements made at the police station were post-Miranda. Information in the media right after the arrest and attributable to law enforcement report that Bryan Kohberger redacted, ladies and gentlemen. Let me read it to you again. All statements made at the police station were post-Miranda. Information in the media right after the arrest and attributable to law enforcement report that Mr. Kohberger blank.
We all know that this is because Brian Entin and Brian Entin alone came out and said that he heard Bryan Kohberger asked if there was anybody else possibly arrested. Now, I don't know the exact quote myself off the top of my brain, so I'm just going to go ahead and play Brian Entin saying it himself right here.
While he was in custody, he asked if anyone else has been arrested, which was an interesting question.
It was never validated. They never actually confirmed whether that was what was said or not. I see stuff like this and I laugh because I'm like, how are people mad at me for coming out here and being blunt, honest, and truthful about what actually is going on, what's actually being put out here? But people like that clickbait, that are actual attorneys, are more credible than me when it comes to my opinion because they've got whatever on their title. My degree doesn't mean nothing. I very much understand that. But at least I have common sense and I don't come out here doing this crap. Like, are you for real? No, Mr. Sir. You knew exactly what that statement was about because it tells you in the highlighted part that you highlighted yourself what exactly the statement was for. Oh, and also being a defense attorney, this is what he has to say about the DNA.
Oh, Scott, his DNA could have got there anyway. Oh, it's so plausible. No, it couldn't. And I'm telling you, this is from a defense attorney, all right?
Actually, it is plausible, Mr. Sir. So just to throw a few more well-known examples out there, let's talk about Amanda Knox just for a second. Now, I guess I'm going to need to do a video of the details of this story because it turns out the reason why she was exonerated was because DNA became more understandable, and it turned out that what they deemed to be evidence of her actually murdering her roommate because her DNA was found on the weapon, what they ended up realizing was that it was touch transfer DNA cross-contamination. Amanda Knox and her roommate, obviously lived in the same house, so it's not an unfathomable thing for her DNA to be on her roommate's stuff, and vice versa. But that doesn't mean that she did anything to her. That's why she was exonerated, because there was nothing but that. There was literally nothing else. And touch DNA literally goes everywhere. Now, Lukis Anderson right here, we've gone over his story. The thumbnail looks like this, and I'll have a link for it down in the description box. But long story short, he had been over-intoxicated one night, passed out in the middle of a convenience store. An ambulance was called. An ambulance came to get him. He was brought to the hospital, and he was admitted overnight. Well, then there was a murder scene. And the ambulance that picked up Lukis Anderson and brought him to the hospital responded to the call and ended up picking up the murder victim. Well, Lukis Anderson's DNA transferred from the ambulance onto the murder victim's hands. Like, it was literally underneath the man's fingernails. So you get DNA under a fingernail and you're like, holy crap, this happened whenever he was fighting off his attacker. But no, Lukis Anderson literally had nothing to do with it. And besides the fact that he literally didn't know them, had no proof that he was there or anything else, there was medical records of Mr. Anderson's to prove that he was actually admitted into a facility. So even though they had an airtight alibi about where he actually was, he was sitting there falsely confessing because of his drug use, because of his alcohol abuse. He just figured maybe he actually did do it, but just didn't remember because he blacked out. But it turned out he was completely innocent the entire time. Now, this story here from 2014 about an Oklahoma City police officer named Daniel Holtzclaw, that one's interesting because it looks like several people accused him of doing things, and there was DNA from one of the victims on the guy's pants, but the way that it turns out was that he was like rummaging through the woman's purse and doing all kind of stuff for his like police officer duties before going into the bathroom. So any DNA that he came in contact whenever he was either searching her car, searching her purse, searching whatever, he then put on his pants like whenever he went to the restroom because, people usually don't wash their hands before they use the restroom. That's usually an after you've done your business situation. So if he would have gone in there after rummaging through her bag, used his hands to undo his pants so he could use the restroom, I mean, that's definitely a way that something like that could have gotten on his pants, even though one would assume that if you're rummaging through a purse of somebody that you've just arrested, your ass would be wearing gloves. Now, even with this scientifically possible conclusion, he's apparently still sentenced to 263 years in prison. So that might be another one to dig into, because if he's truly innocent, if this was really just a touch transfer situation, if there's somebody about to spend almost 3 times as long as we are even alive, honestly, in prison for something he didn't do, then something definitely needs to be done about it. And again, these are just a few. We're going to end up digging up more and doing more stories about false confessions because of the Richard Allen case, and about boo-boo DNA because of this case and so many others. But for this defense attorney to sit there and act like this is a completely impossible scenario, he's kidding himself. And honestly, how good of a defense attorney can he actually be if this is his stance on this situation? We've talked about a couple different cases like this ourselves, and we're going to be talking about even more of them because it's a huge problem. While DNA is becoming something almost miraculous to a lot of people because of all these really, really, really old, like almost 100-year-old cold cases, y'all, are starting to get solved. All right. Back in the black and white TV days, cold cases are starting to get solved left and right. And honestly, Othram Labs has had a huge part in that. Knowing just how much Othram actually does, it really does give me even more pause, and I've mentioned this before, that the feds would come in and tell them to do a complete work stop on the DNA. Why? If Othram is so good at what they do, if they're contracted to work with all of these different police departments, if they've solved all of these cold cases, why, Mr. Fedman, would you want to go in there and stop somebody who's so credentialed and well known for what they do? Why would you want to stop somebody like that from actually working the case? Why? There's way too much of this that doesn't make sense than does make sense. They've yet to prove actually anything. And I'm not trying to just come out here and talk all kind of mess about creators, okay? But I just made a comment over on another creator's video about the Delphi case. And I might actually end up doing a video and having a discussion about it, but it's going to be a discussion because I don't really have anything to say about this creator. I like a lot of stuff that they do. I like how in-depth that they get. I like that they do a lot of cold case stuff. So I'm not trying to start anything, but I want it to be a conversation because in this video, this creator says there's no phone evidence whatsoever that Richard Allen was at the scene, that per the phone this and per the phone that. Okay, well, what about Bryan Kohberger's phone? That's not good enough. Just like there's no evidence on Richard Allen's phone, there's no evidence on Bryan Kohberger's phone either. And we've literally already heard that in the courtroom. So it can't just be, speculation off of whatever we're hearing now. We have had people that are experts in this take the stand under oath and claim that there's nothing regarding anything about Bryan Kohberger being anywhere near the location of the crime in the phone records itself. Why is it different for Bryan Kohberger than it is for Richard Allen with a lot of these creators? I don't really understand that at all. But it's going to be a discussion, and maybe we'll just do a little bit of comparing and contrasting so that I can get my point across as respectful as possible. But I want to know what you guys think about Mr. Clickbait Attorney over there. I was not happy seeing this. And all the views on it kind of made me even sicker because how many people that clicked on that video so quick have been watching this case from day one before we even knew who Bryan Kohberger was and clicked on it thinking that this guy was miraculously going to know something that nobody else does. Some people will fall for anything, I guess, but drop me a comment down below. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please don't forget to leave a like on the way out, subscribe to the channel if you were not subscribed already, and please don't forget to make sure that your notification bell is set to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives. See y'all.